Hey,
Hi,
hey Terry, hey Terry. I, I,
yes,
I I wonder if the 16th is throwing them off, because usually the third Thursday usually happens in the 20s, and so it's like the 16th. I think it's throwing people off.
right. Because what was it? Yesterday was like, or Tuesday at least, it was only the second Tuesday, but all of a sudden it's the third Thursday. Yeah, I don't know. It could be, but that's okay. We'll roll with what we have. Let me see. So Stephen Egbert, great, you're with us. So we have Escondido and Del Mar and San Diego South in San Diego. And welcome everyone, Sister Erlene Hooker. She is the newly called San Diego East Emergency Response Specialist. And with that being said, Sister Hooker, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself and a little bit about your background.
Hi. Well, first of all, this is a new calling to me. I was Brother Holiday extended this call to me about 2 weeks ago, so this is brand new. Still don't know exactly what they're going to do with me yet, because I'm also one of the gospel doctrine teachers and the self-reliance specialist. So they tried to keep me busy, and my bishop was teasing about giving me a third calling, and now all of a sudden I got a state calling. So maybe they'll release me from one or two of the other callings. I don't know. I'm originally a SoCal girl who I joke about going to NorCal via Texas. I came back to SoCal here 3.5 years ago because after 25 years of being single, I found somebody that I wanted to marry, and he wanted to marry me. His name is Steve, and we got married in October of 2020, right during the heyday of the pandemic. So it was quite interesting. We were both working at home and thoroughly enjoyed it. I am a recent retiree from Pacific Gas and Electric, sister company to your SDG&E. My husband's a dean at SDSU, and he's going to be retiring the end of next month. So we actually were talking about potentially moving, and then all of a sudden I got this call. And during the time that I was being set apart, I was told that I was to focus on the responsibilities for this call. So I've got my background's all real estate. I've got a 32-year career with public utilities. I literally have worked with about every state, local, federal agency that one could work with through the course of my business. So fortunately, I'm comfortable in working with those kind of entities. I kind of suspect that that's in part one of the reasons why they decided to tap me. But that's just a little bit about me. Any specific questions or anything that anybody would like to know?
I'm just so happy that you actually have a background in some of the acronyms we use, so it won't throw you for quite a big loop. And you even have extra ones from other parts of your businesses that I'm not.
I have so many. So if I do that, and I have a war story, lots of war stories through the years, but years and years ago, when I was very young, and I'm a real estate broker by trade as well, and I was talking to some clients, and I was being stupid and just talking jargon one day, and their faces just went blank as all get out. And I said, I'm sorry, let me start over. And so that's been my lesson literally for like 45 years. I have that image in my mind's eye of the jargon. So if I start kind of doing that, just back me down and say, hey, talk English to me.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it is nice to have that bit of background, especially with different agencies and local government too. So you'll be a great resource for your stake. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to recognize, was there anyone else that had questions for her before I move on a minute? Okay, you did a great job explaining, thanks. I do want to recognize Sister Jimenez, our self-reliance our area welfare and self-reliance manager. She's up in the LA area. And then also Brother Miskin. And remind me, Brother Miskin, you're San Bernardino now? He might have stepped away, but
yes,
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I don't know why my headset's not working here, but happy to be here with you. I am over the San Bernardino Coordinating Council, and we hold quarterly meetings. The next one's toward the end of June, third Tuesday in June. So,
Okay.
You're in San Bernardino?
yes.
Okay.
And
Where in the county are you? Are you in San Bernardino itself, or where are
I
you?
I live in Yucaipa.
Oh, okay. I own property in Redlands, so
Okay.
I used to live in Redlands years ago.
I did too, years
Very
ago
good.
though, about 24 years ago.
Ah, okay.
And Brother Miskin, specifically when you say you're over the coordinating council in a specific capacity to emergency response, or explain that just a bit.
Yeah, emergency response, and you know, I've kind of inherited preparation as well. We're trying to figure out what to do with communications. It's a struggle right now. Do you deal with CIRA at all?
Yeah,
Steve
that's
running?
not this meeting, but you and Stephen and Mike Diamond can talk Syra on another one, or we'll go down a rabbit hole and never get out of that one.
Okay.
Come on. Love to talk to you, Brother Mitchell.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
was a tech coordinator for them for.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah. Anyway,
So
happy to
we
be here,
invite-
and thanks for inviting me, Terry.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you got the invitation this time. But we do invite so that we can share information and learn from each other and use best practices and see what works for the different areas. And so we appreciate the collaboration. Kind of what I wanted to start with, and Stephen Egbert, I'm going to let you kind of monitor if you see anyone that's, put something in the chat or have their hand raised, if you could let us know so we can not ignore anyone. But the first thing I kind of wanted to circle around to, especially since there's a few of you that might not be as familiar with, and we have learned some lessons through this flooding event that happened back in January. A little bit of rain, but a big creek that overflowed and has caused lots of damage, and we have a lot of people displaced. And it's gone from, a short-term crisis to a long-term crisis. And so we're learning how we fit into that bigger picture, and just want to make sure that everybody is aware of what VOAD is. VOAD, it stands for Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster. And the fact that the church Provident Living has a guidelines for being representatives of VOAD, in which, Brother Miskin, I assume that means that you're the VOAD representative for your area as well in San Bernardino. Is that correct? Because Stephen and I are the representatives as the emergency response directors for our coordinating council here. So I'm assuming that kind of goes with that calling. And we learn how to be good partners with the county and their emergency response plan through VOAD. If there is a bigger emergency that more than the first responders can handle themselves, the county will usually let the mayor know that they need to enact VOAD and bring in partner organizations that deal with emergency response relief to meet the needs, however expansive that might be. And I know our VOAD here in San Diego County has about 180 agencies that are pretty active, but not all of them do the same thing. And for whatever the emergency is, they may or may not be called into play depending on what the need is. And certainly the church has a hand in that. They have a national seat, and then they have state seats as well. And California has 2 state seats, a northern and a southern. And so I don't know if he'll jump on later or not, but Brother Porter was invited to this meeting too. He's our Southern California VOAD representative. So where we used to kind of wing it and be spontaneous volunteers when emergencies happened in the areas, and certainly worldwide, that is still the case for places that don't have resources. But because San Diego does have an emergency plan and they do have the Office of Emergency Services, we work within that plan and we wait to take information from them and instructions on how to partner with them and do whatever is needed within the scope of what we can offer as church members. And what we're directed that we can offer usually is just volunteers, but even that has parameters. So, we're very cautious and we do a lot of listening. And then when we hear something that sounds like our members could get involved in, then what we've learned is instead of going straight to the stakes affected, that we need to number one, let our area authority know. And then if he can't oversee the multi-stake event, then he will assign the agent stake president to be in his stead. And then he will point person that we navigate around all the requests through each stake. And so that's kind of what we have done through this event. It kind of limped along slowly as we were connecting those dots. But if there's another event, heaven forbid, hopefully we'll be a little quicker on the draw. We've also realized that there's a difference between short-term and long-term. And Sister Jimenez has helped inform me that, generally the church helps in a short-term effect. So until people kind of get back with their groups, families, faith-based organizations that can kind of take over from there. And once people are back in their homes, generally the church will step back and let those organizations take over with the rest of the assistance. So that's some of the lessons that we've been learning along the way. Certainly our flooding incident was multi-stake. It specifically affected the South stake and the San Diego stake, but it kind of touched on some homes, I believe, in the El Cajon stake as well. So there's some spot areas where some of this happened. So the other thing we learned is we should be utilizing Just Serve. And when there are, and I guess it's up to the stake to work it out with the agent stake president, what events but if it's priesthood directed, in which they're calling like a stake to come out and do a massive, volunteer effort, that can be stake directed as long as they have those permissions in play. If it's not something that I'm probably saying this all wrong, I'm getting a little tongue-tied, but if it's not something that they feel they want to ask the stake to do as a whole, we can put it up on Just Serve and people can individually volunteer. But we still pass that through the agent stake president to make sure it falls within the guidelines of what we think our members can do. So currently Just Serve has 5 volunteer projects up for individuals to volunteer at. I would say, Brother Dries, since you're on with us tonight, 2 of those projects just went up today, and they are specifically a one-day event that's connected to the flooding. They're providing a carnival on Saturday, the 25th, and they are looking for helpers to set up because it's being done at the Cesar Chavez Elementary School, and they just have the one day to stand it up, perform it, and then take it down. So they're looking for some volunteers to help in the setup and then to man some of the booths for the children and whatnot that are happening there. And that is up on Just Serve right now. So even if it wasn't priesthood directed to ask a stake to participate, we wondered about maybe the Relief Society and Elders Quorums being aware of the links and being able to announce that people can go to them if they want to volunteer individually. So if that's something you can take a look at some point and just make those decisions, Brother Dries, I'll leave that in your court. Is that all right?
Yeah, I'll take a look at it and I'll probably discuss that with our communications director and then see how we want to proceed from there.
Okay, that's great.
Terry?
Yeah.
Can you? I'm on 2 devices, so I'll try and not listen. But can you mention the community recovery team? That's a way to find these 5, and I think you have a link too.
Correct. So I did get permission from President Walton to talk about the links and ask stakes if they wanted to push it to ask individuals to volunteer. And I sent him a link to the community recovery team, which seems to be the sponsor for all 5 of those projects. And so I will send that out to the group tonight too. But if you went on to Just Serve and were looking that up on your own without me providing a specific link, you would put in community response team in San Diego, and they should come up with the 5 projects. So be aware of that. I mean, it's going, the community response team, is that what it is, Stephen? Community recovery team? Recovery team. Thank you. Yeah. Community recovery team. They are the ones that are going out and doing individual assessment to people who apply for help to find out what their needs are. They have case managers, and they do that for every event, fire or whatnot, and they've been doing that for years and years. So that's why they are the ones in charge of it right now. They've been assessing the needs, and through this event, with it being long-term, apparently it's a relief that they provide for families once a quarter to do these fun days. So there could be 1 or 2 more, you know, within the year that pop up later in the year. So just be aware of that. Let's see. That's pretty much, but Brother Dries, is there anything that you might want to add out of lessons learned from this that might be helpful to this group, since it affected you the most?
Well, it only affected a couple of our members, but certainly many within the community that live within our stake boundaries. So, I mean, we haven't done really much more other than what we did back in, what was it, early March or end of March? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, could you kind of give a brief summary of that, because some on here aren't really aware of what was done by the South Stake.
Right. So back when after they had the floods, there was a significant amount of damage done to members of the community within our stake boundaries and within the San Diego stake boundaries. And so under the direction of President, forget his name, as assigned by Elder Clark, he kind of directed and was looking after standing up an opportunity to assist through crisis cleanup. And we managed to get organized for that, selected a number of work orders or jobs to do on a Saturday, and had a pretty good turnout given the amount of time that we had to put it all together. We literally had less than 48 hours to do it, and ended up having I think about 120 participants on the one day, either in the morning or in the afternoon. And I must say, it was all the members that helped out with that all had a wonderful attitude. They were all willing to help. Thankfully, we also had 2 zones of missionaries from the San Diego mission, which helped out at short notice. But it ended up being a great experience. We were all wrapped up and done close to I think 5 o'clock or so on that Saturday, and managed to do a lot of mostly muck out kinds of stuff and cleaning up debris and that kind of thing. But we had some good crews go out, and certainly all the members of the community were very grateful. And the members came away, I would describe it as, even though they're dirty and muddy, they were joyful. So anyway, it was a good experience.
Well, and it was actually very spectacular. Stephen and I went down to kind of see what they were doing. And basically it was kind of like standing up a little mini emergency operations center, right? So because the volunteers came in, they had already spent a day or so vetting through crisis cleanup some of the cases that had been put on this platform as in need of help in this specific debris removal and mucking out that was needed. And then I believe, Brother Dries, you said you called about 60 or, close to that to find out if it matched the needs of what our members were capable of. And you whittled that down to about 16 cases. And I think you completed about 10 or so cases that day, if not more, right?
I think we ended up completing, I want to say like 13 or 14. I can't remember. It's been too long ago, even though it's only a couple of months.
Right.
But yeah, so we did a lot of phone calling to vet the cases and make sure it was the right fit, that we had, people going to the right place. And that was certainly helpful to do that all in advance and make sure that when members got there, they were confident in what they were going to be able to do.
Can I ask something? Is
go ahead.
Brother Dries, your experience has been replicated many times, that it's a difficult task to find these people. And so you may start with 60. And I know that was a big thing. I did have one experience when I was at Spring Valley, where some woman basically cried because she was so depressed. And up came the Southern Baptist to do a drywall, and up came these LDS old grandpas. She called them old people. And, she's young. She says, if these old people can actually be willing and happy to do this. So it really, she cried on it. I've seen lots of people crying at the booths for all the things they got from the volunteers. It meant more than just carrying out the debris. It was an attitude shift that a lot of them had from seeing the community.
Yeah, that's very true. I know we had some great reports coming back from the various experiences. I know one gentleman remarked that he wasn't exactly sure how he was going to get everything done, and then a sea of yellow shirts showed up to help him out, and it was just like it was an answered prayer. So it was good stuff.
That brings me to a couple of things. Brother Dries, I will probably appreciate, if not use someone from San Diego South Stake to kind of work in a presentation that we can tell this to our annual training group when we do it in September. Just again, as a lessons learned and things to think about going forward.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we captured all of that in writing. I just don't remember it all off the top of my head. But one of the things that we did do as we were going through it, we just kept a list of these are the lessons that we've learned. If we had to do it again, these are some things we had to consider. So we've got that all documented and ready to go. So yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, so a couple things that he said that I kind of want to bring into play here. One, we talked about crisis cleanup. If you haven't heard that before, it is a platform that is starting to get more use. It's been widely used back east over the last 10 plus years by the church, but certainly by community and other organizations. And it was mentioned in general conference on the World Report as a platform that had been used. Was there someone that had a comment? Okay, so I just want to, we are going to have them do a presentation at the annual training in September as well, so that people can have a better understanding of that. Because what we'd ultimately like to have, the way it's set up, it is an LDS a homegrown organization, and they have set it up so that as LDS stakes utilize it, that one person in the stake becomes the person with the passwords. So one person only signs in with the password, and it gets assigned as the information point person, basically. But then that password can be passed through the stake to other people that need to utilize it. So we'd like to have each stake registered with Crisis Cleanup just for possible future use, so that you're ready to go and you don't have to figure that out in the middle of a crisis. So again, we'll be presenting that better in September, so everyone has an understanding of that and can go forward from there. The other thing he mentioned. Oh, go ahead, Brother.
I was just going to say, one of the things that we learned is, there was a quick learning curve to get through. And I know we made some mistakes along the way as we were trying to figure it out in that 48 hours. But it might be helpful for those stakes that register, whoever's name it's registered against, that they go ahead and get some training on it so that, you know, when something happens, that they're already versed on how to use the application and don't have to stumble around like we did.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And usually when you put in as a new login and that you're registering on this site, it is like a 2-3 day process where your information then goes back to the corporation. They come back and walk you through a small training and get you signed and logged on. But whatever other training they offer besides that initial, they are certainly willing to work with anybody. They want everybody to know how to use it and how to use it effectively. So they will hold your hand through it if that's your need. And but something to consider for later. Thank you, Brother Dries. Then the other thing he mentioned was yellow shirts. So in case there is an event, I don't know, Sister Jimenez, how you feel about this. Is it something that stakes, because I think a lot of our stakes down here have the old version of the yellow shirt. And is it something that maybe stakes could look at being prepared and ordering a box to have on hand, or as they feel they can store it? Or how do you advise? Do you wait for an event to happen and then you ship, you know, but then there's that lag time of waiting for that to happen. So I don't know what's the best practice here. Because they've
If they're
updated.
interested in the yellow shirts, they can just contact me and I will coordinate with them on an order from Salt Lake. But we really like to step away from using the old shirts because the logo. Yeah, so if stakes are interested in getting yellow shirts, just send me an email and we'll work through it.
Okay.
San
So
Diego
hopefully
South already has new shirts.
May I get your email address, please?
Yes, it's Jimenez, Jimenez, S like Sierra, K like Kilo, at churchofjesuschrist.org. Jimenez, SK.
Yeah, so the older shirts have the logo that they don't use anymore. They'd really like that to reflect the new logo on there. So that's why. And they come in a case, and what, 144 to a case?
Something like that. And they and yeah, I'll have to get back to you on, I forget like the quantities, but you have to order them by size and by case.
Is there a cost to that?
There is a cost, but normally what happens is the cost of the t-shirts gets charged against the emergency project. So what I'm going to take as an action item from this meeting is I'm going to connect with Salt Lake and find out how we can order t-shirts without having it attached to an emergency event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you please, because I suspect that that would be something that at least I personally would be interested in as I'm just getting started. And just so everybody knows, like I said, I only was called 2 weeks ago. I have not talked to my stake president. I just talked to Terry today. So in this avenue, I'm really green. And so if I say something that you guys go, that's kind of coming in left field, let me know, because you know, it's very possible that I may be out in left field at the moment. So thanks so much.
Here's something related to that, Terry, is that when I went down to the DRC, the VOAD didn't even have name tags yet. So I went and saw a tag that I got from 10 years ago that said LDS emergency with my name on it. And I threw it on so that when I'm sitting with somebody, they can see my name. It would be nice if we all had a tag. It'd be nice if it was up to date and didn't say LDS or Mormon, you know, but you look a lot better with a tag when you're representing something. Do you have any thoughts on that, Terry or Sister Jimenez, as to what our tag should be when we're not wearing yellow shirts, but we're down like at the you know, we're representing VOAD, but we're really representing the organization, you know, So I will end up wearing my VOAD tag and my LDS emergency badge at the same time, so that and they would associate right off that somebody from Brother South Stake had come, and they knew I was connected to Brother Drees' stake project because I had a tag on.
Yeah, I don't have a real good answer for that. What I do know is from the communication council that Stephen and I sit on, when it used to be public affairs, they had just ordered everybody nice magnetic name tags, and then they changed the name to communication council like within the year. And they have not reordered any name tags since then, because I don't know what the cost is, but that's on this level, communication council problem that should probably be discussed. But as far as vote church representatives,
they should match what it says on the shirts, so that people like me at the registration are somehow associated with the people that are in. And when you go out, I think when you do go do crisis cleanup, the organizations are vetted organizations. They're not just they're everyone that works on crisis cleanup is under the direction of an organization, and these people are very fearful of people coming in their houses, vandalizing something, stealing something. So to show that your help is somewhat vetted by a T-shirt is really important,
Yeah, I agree. And that applies, Brother Miskin, to you and Brother Perkins in Escondido Stake. With the crisis cleanup consideration, you guys can register in your areas respectively as well. So
Yes.
Will do.
Okay. Then the other last thing I was thinking of had to do with long-term recovery, and I don't remember what my thought process was there. So hopefully that will come back.
It's going to be long-term, Terry.
Well, this particular, I know what it was. In your emergency response planning as stakes, I think we always think, when the emergency happens and immediately right after, but what we're finding out here is sometimes the event is going to be long-term. And in this case, where they have mold issues and everything kind of has to be torn down and rebuilt again. Some homes are, going to be 1 to 2 years before they can be built and people can move back into them. So it is something to consider how will your stake respond if it's a long-term emergency, and, connecting those dots again, Brother Miskin in your area and Brother Perkins, talking to your coordinating council and finding out from your area authority and state presence what their thought is on that. And it's hard to know until you've gone through an event, but it is something to consider when you're putting your emergency response plans. So short term is immediate help. Long term, we temporarily help, but usually, as Sister Jimenez directed me earlier in the week, once they get back into their own places, then we let their families and other organizations take over. Someone had a comment.
Yes,
I was gonna say, sometimes you don't learn. There's all sorts of governmental obstacles and rules that, for example, if you were moved out of your house in this disaster and you decided to go be self-reliant and go stay with a friend, then you became ineligible for government assistance on housing. And so that was the only people that were put in housing were the ones who went straight to the county and it has to be put up. So the VOAD had to petition for all of these people that had spent a couple weeks with friends until they got basically kicked out of their friend's place. So I don't know what to tell you. It's just that sometimes good deeds go punished, So does that make sense? I'm just trying to say we can learn from each other, and how the city has a lot of desire to minimize this cost as much as they can to themselves. And if these are your members that are in trouble like that, helping them appeal their FEMA denials and all the things that go with that, you can be very helpful.
Was there another comment?
I just had a question in regards to this type of scenario and the utilization of insurances. Because I don't know what the overarching situation was with most of these people that were impacted, if they were homeowners, if they were tenants. Can you
All of
address
the above.
that? How did that?
Yep. All of the above, but only, and most people had homeowners insurance, not everyone. Very few had flood insurance, so the homeowners insurance hasn't covered hardly anything.
So
And
that's great.
FEMA, if your house is destroyed, basically, the most you can get was like $42,000, and then the state would do an automatically bonus $10,000. So at the most you could get was $56,000 for everything, you know, for clean out, for everything. And the money that they got was in categories, so it had to be spent in a certain, it wasn't fungible exactly. But we always tried to tell people that since the VOAD had lots of donations coming in, to talk to the donation people, the long-term care people, to make sure that you are spending your money on things you can't get a donation for.
Yeah. One of the
I
things to remember in our case in San Diego County, we're lucky to have the community recovery team, and they do get assigned case managers, and those case managers help them navigate through all of these issues. So, but it is a slow thing when you have 1,000 people or more, you know, it's one at a time. And if you only have so many case managers, how long it's take till they get to you if you're number, 1,000. So
Well, 9 years
that's
ago,
why-
I had a, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's why it's long-term recovery. Go ahead.
9 years ago, I had a tenant catch my duplex in Redlands on fire. And so I had to rebuild it. So kind of understand a little bit about having to deal with a lot of requirements. And if it's homeowners, there are things that people need to know too, especially if you're taking the property off the tax roll at the time. Then if you're going to do rebuilding, the fact that the property is going to be reassessed, there's a lot of issues there that I guess it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but it sounds like hopefully these case managers are aware of all those type of scenarios and they work with the homeowners to advise them of these circumstances. Is that correct?
Yes, and I would say, I mean, it's not like the case managers are handling everything, but they're assessing the needs. And then again, through VOAD and other organizations that have stepped up and made themselves recognizable, they are matching them to like a legal fund defense, and
Okay.
whatever the needs are. So VOAD, like I say, has 180 partners, and each of them have different specialties. So they're pulling these different organizations in as needed, case by case.
That'll be wonderful. As I get to, and I apologize because I don't know who's out there at this point yet. And so
yeah,
I didn't have anybody. I had to kind of go through that whole ropes, myself when that lovely thing happened. So
yeah. And that's kind of why we are partnering with them and trying to, push their information along, because we want people to be aware of what the resources are, and that includes our members in our stake. And so, holding fairs and some sort of gathering spot where people can get all this information, it can be overwhelming, right? And especially if you've not been through an event or there's nothing happening in your area and you don't think anything's going to happen, people might be a little less in tune as to why do I need this information. So it's kind of this, got to keep plugging it and making sure it's available for whoever needs it when they need it. And so that's part of the networking that, as an emergency response specialist, that we ask you to do in your callings, that you're interfacing with the government and first responder agencies local to your area, and finding out what's available information wise, training wise, that you can bring to the stake to make them more resilient, as they can fit those preparedness things into their schedules. So is there any comments on that before we move on? Okay. So going forward, for just as a recap, and I think Brother Dries can attest to this, I think as an emergency response specialist, the most important thing you can do is sit down and have a one-on-one with your state president and make sure you're both in understanding of what your calling is, what it entails, what the outward facing portion of it looks like, the time involved, and chain of command. And if you have an event and need to activate, what levels would an emergency response specialist be called into play versus the state president making his own decisions, those kinds of things. So I think getting all that settled up front, so that there's a mutual understanding, and when an event does happen, that you become a vital player in that, they know they can reach out and know what you're capable of and what you can bring to the table, rather than not knowing anything about you and how you can help, and then feeling like the state president has to wing it, not knowing the resources that are available. So we want to make sure to bridge all that together, and that's part of why we ask for a specified emergency response specialist, because it can kind of be a large networking job that takes a lot of time, and you're internal and external at the same time. You're bringing that information to the members, but you're getting it from your community. And what was the other component of that? It just escaped out of my mind. Anyways, just having that was then talking to him about forming an emergency response council where you're meeting like once a quarter with the heads of stake auxiliaries, as you're, talking, if not already a plan in place, building the plan, and if a plan is in place, keeping it up to date and current with information. And a lot of that's, again, on the SD preparedness website on how to do that with the resources there that are available. And if anyone had any questions and needed more information on it, we could talk about that offline, but I don't want to take too much time talking about that here. But developing that relationship, I just really wanted to say, is probably the most important thing that we've noticed coming out of this event. That if you don't have all those lines drawn and know who to call, like Arlene was telling me today, if your first call can't be to the right person, you're wasting time, right? So you want to make sure you get that all banged out ahead of time.
No more than taking 2 calls. If it's
Okay.
not the first one, that first one's going to get you to the right one on the second call.
Yep. All right. Let's see. I think I covered all the bases that I need to cover there. Stephen, do you have anything to add, or Mike Guyman? Okay.
No, I don't. You covered it very thoroughly.
Mm-hmm,
And I think that when you're talking, as I'm listening to all of this, it really, this is an area of knowing, for instance, there was a philosophy in the church, or a mentality in the church that and I remember hearing this growing up, no member of the church ever has to be on public assistance, because the church will take care of them. And some people may still think that, but I think we're being instructed otherwise now, that we need to know what the government has and the government puts in place, and grab that first and up front, as this example points out, because if you don't, you go someplace else first, you may not be able to circle back and get that information for the government. So it's important that our members who are in leadership positions have this information and are in a position to give counsel to members of the church, and really more to the priesthood leadership. It's, because there's so much involved in so many things that they have to take care of anyway, that it really puts a lot of responsibility on us to become well versed in what we're assigned to do.
Yeah. And in general, we encourage the emergency response specialist and the communication specialist to kind of work together. I know for us, we've created a committee for the council, so that we're talking about how to plan for this meeting and for this September training, and trying to look at all the different facets. And so likewise in your council, you're bringing together all the people that, you know, are going to be players in an emergency, and you want to define those roles, know who's doing what, see if there's a too deep, you know, in case someone is out of town, who do you call next, that type of thing, and get all those things worked out in your plan ahead of time. All right.
And Terry, just a reminder that I'll
yes.
be out of town beginning tomorrow, be back Wednesday evening.
Okay, great. At this point, I think the other announcements that I had kind of centered around community. I've already talked to Brother Drees about that fair going on next Saturday for the survivors of the flood and their families. And in Ramona, there's also going to be an emergency fair this Saturday, the 18th, at the fairgrounds. And then Olivenhain, Mickey, I don't know if you're aware of the Fire Safety Council there. They're having the barbecue and emergency fair in Olivenhain for your area this Saturday. So if you don't have that flyer, I can get it to you, and you should get it out to those.
Usually they send that out in the Elf alerts. I haven't seen anything like that.
Yeah, it's happening this Saturday. I know. I've been talking to the Fire Safe Council there, and so
yeah, and I know the guy that's kind of in charge of the Fire Safe Council, and he hasn't sent me anything either. I'm the head block captain for our community, and usually they send it to me and say, "Hey, get this out to all the block captains."
Yeah.
Yeah, send it to me, because nobody said boo about this.
Okay. So yeah, I will do that. And if you don't see it by tonight, remind me tomorrow morning, and I'll try and get it to you as soon as possible. Are there any other events in anybody's areas that we should be aware of?
Terry, could you give me the address in Ramona? My stepson lives out there.
I will put it in the notes and send it out to everybody after this meeting, because I don't have it right at my fingertips, but I'm pretty sure it's at the fairgrounds, but I do want to confirm that before I tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terry, did you say that was in Olivenhain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why I didn't get it, because we're not Olivenhain, we're Elfin Forest.
Correct, but it does affect.
But no, but yes, send it, because it's the hop, skip, and a jump, you know, maybe about 15 minutes over the back road to get there. Right. So thank you. That's why I didn't get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know your firehouses sometimes in your local area will hold open houses, and these are the kind of events that we want you to be connected to and try and get that information out to your ward members. They're the best kept secrets sometimes, you know, and families especially, you know, great activities to take kids to, because they have a lot of events and things. I know we just had our Poway emergency fair last weekend, and our CERT team was doing hands-on CPR, and, you know, 4-year-olds and up were doing it on the ground, on their knees. We had a safety trailer. There's all sorts of things for families to learn to work together on doing their own personal preparedness plans. So with that in mind too, if you ever have a desire to either work with an event already in play or put on your own emergency fair, you can always talk to Stephen and I, or we'll connect you with other people that have resources to help you put on things like that. So that's pretty much all I have for now, unless there's events or anything happening in your own wards or states that you want to talk about. Any experiences lately on any other kinds of emergencies or anything?
Well, I should mention, just for the group, Brother Bagley, who's the Young Church Service Mission leader, had connections with Newport, the Newport Coordinating Council. They asked him if he knew of any down and dirty projects for single adults from the Newport Beach, because they were coming down to do a conference or whatever at USD. So my brain worked, and I sent the Just Serve links up to there, because this kind of a project of mucking out is like a perfect dirty project for single adults, you know, and that's what they asked for. So we'll see if that works or not. That would be is Brother Perkins from that coordinating council.
Newport, yes.
So that maybe we'll get a report as to something that, if it happens or doesn't happen, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I'll speak on Brother Perkins' behalf. He let me know prior to the meeting that he's going through a little jaw. His mouth is kind of wired shut right now, so he's not doing a lot of talking. He's doing mostly listening. And he says next meeting he'll be better, and so maybe there could be, that'll be June, and it'll probably be after that conference happens. But be aware of that, Brother Perkins, that young single adult conference is happening, and they're thinking about doing that service project for debris removal and muck out. With that being said, Stephen and I are going to go down Friday, tomorrow, to the warehouse and take a look at what's going on there. I think, Stephen, you're helping in the capacity of, once these community recovery teams have assessed a family's need, and they're getting back into a house, which some houses are starting to get back in. I think there's like 10 that have been able to start, you know, moving back into their homes now. And these community recovery teams are assessing what's needed now to help them kind of have normalcy in their home, and they're putting together these orders. And this warehouse has an amazing connection to a vast variety of resources. One is they have a pile of household items that come from Amazon and all the lost packages. So if you ever wondered what happens to those lost packages, they get saved up for donation opportunities like this in these kind of emergency events. So there's all sorts of needs for flooring and drywall, roofing, those kind of things. And eventually they'll be, you know, getting donations and looking for donations to store in that warehouse. They're also looking to hook up with contractors and unions and things that they can tap into for the work as well. So if you know any of those connections and you have information that you want to pass along, let us know. I think Cindy Duhamel and I are going to go tomorrow, and we're going to offload some of the trucks coming in with different items. And Sister Jimenez, am I okay to share about the food order?
Yes.
Okay, we did get permission. One of the main things that they've had a request for at the warehouse is deodorant. And they were in desperate need of it and had been out of it for a little bit. And then the second highest demand was beans and rice. And so we took that to President Walton and asked him if that was something he felt the church could help with a donation of. And he ran that by Sister Jimenez, and they agreed. So they are now have an order in to have those supplies delivered to the warehouse, enough to last them 2 months. And so that is in the works right now too. So I think between all the efforts, between the mucking out and debris removal that was done by the South Stake, and San Diego participated in that event as well. And then Stephen and I manned some of the early local assistance center, where they were just gathering information of who needed help and trying to get the community to know there was a place they could go to get resources. And then after about 30 or 45 days, that closed down and it turned into the disaster recovery center. Is that right, Stephen? DRC? Is that what it was called? And
FEMA DRC, and it was mainly government assistance. And the only one that wasn't government was really the VOAD. Whereas what you saw, Terry, was like 1,000 community organizations in a room. The DRC was 10 FEMA organizations or county organizations and VOAD. So this county really trusts VOAD.
Yeah. And Stephen attended that almost all 30 days that it went on.
Also, a lot of El Cajon Stake members. And a Poway member, and a East Stake member. He took turns down there getting acclimated for the future. the county says that if we ever had major fires, that they would set up 5 DRCs, and you can imagine how many volunteers they would need in order to sit there and do that. So having people go down one time to see what it was like means that they're trained.
Yep. So I think there was a lot of time and effort represented by our church in this event, and it's slowing down on this front probably. And we'll just continue putting that up on Just Serve from here on out. But like I say, it could stretch into that 1 and 2 year mark. So that's all we have to report on that, and just wanted to make sure you are aware of any of those. Is there any questions that we didn't talk about tonight that you wanted to get answered tonight? Anything, other topics that you needed to talk about before we close?
I just had a side question. I think it was Kevin, if he doesn't mind me asking. Kevin, by any chance, do you know a Terry and Wayne Harrison?
Yes, I know them very well.
Oh my gosh, you got to tell them. Okay, tell Terry that Erlene Jameson said hi. I've been trying forever to find them.
They live in St. George now.
Do they? Well, the last I knew of them, they had gone on their mission, and I've not been in touch with them. Terry and I were junior high school buddies. And in fact, Terry's father was one of the stake missionaries who came and taught me the gospel when I was 12 years old.
Small world.
So if you would please, please, please tell Terry I said hi. I'll even give you my telephone number. Is it okay if I just give it here? I don't care. You know, I think everybody here, I don't mind if anybody has it. But is that okay, Terry?
Yeah.
Okay, 916-216-9434. When you said you were from Yucaipa, I about jumped out of my skin. And there's a story I won't tell you tonight, but there's a story of when I first moved to Redlands, and I ran into Terry at a state conference, and she sent me a note and said, "Are you Erlene Jameson?" I'm Terry Wilkinson. She put Harrison Wilkinson, and I was going nuts. So I had not seen her since we were kids.
I think it's Erlene, Erline.
Correct, Erline. And it's
Hooker.
now Hooker, Hooker, and I'm in El Cajon. My address here is 1660 Swallow Drive, El Cajon 92020. And my email is erlenehooker54@gmail.com. Oh my gosh. When you said Yucaipa, I had to ask. So thank you guys.
All right. Any words of wisdom?
Yes. My worry is that we used to do VOAD and we would talk about flood. We talk about fires, we talk about earthquakes, we talk about the feeding projects. And once the flood took place, we have not had discussions about all the other things that VOAD had on its table. You know, they canceled the desktop exercise on mass feedings in the county and all sorts of things. So we're going to get rusty. We're going to think every disaster is a flood, and that's not true.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, there's a lot of talk that we're due for a major earthquake.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Brother Miskin, anything that you want to add?
No, I appreciate being able to be a part of this. Wonderful to be a part of it.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of experience responding to tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, and fires. A lot of fires.
Okay. Yeah, I know you.
Civil unrest.
Just as a side note, when I first got this calling like 10 years ago now, Brother Miskin, you were running a show up in Miraloma and doing a training, and some of the first training I got was from you, and it was very, very wise training. So I appreciate all that you bring to the table. And Sister Jimenez, before we go, any last words from you about anything that we should be aware of?
No, I sure appreciate you all. I mean, you guys really stepped up and supported the county and kept President Walton and Elder Clark well informed of all that was going on in support of the flood. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yep, yep. Sometimes it was TMI, but we're learning too. So we're trying to tighten the ship from here on out. Brother Dries, would you mind offering our closing prayer tonight? Great.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful as we've been able to counsel together this evening for the many blessings that we enjoy, in recognition also of those that may have struggles throughout our area and throughout the world. We're grateful for the comfort that comes through the gospel of Jesus Christ and from his atoning sacrifice. And pray that we might be able to be more dedicated to him, exercise more faith in him, and be better at keeping our covenants. We are thankful for each member of the church that serves so diligently in many different capacities, and pray a blessing upon them. Pray a blessing upon those who continue to suffer as a result of the disasters that we've been experiencing. We give thee thanks for the guidance that we've received from church leaders, and pray a blessing upon them and upon our families as we serve. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming to the table and sharing and learning from each other. I appreciate that. We'll see you next month. Hopefully nothing will happen in between. Good night.
Yeah, really. Good night.